Hello, everyone. Hi, my name is Rob, CEO and founder of Cosvox. Thank you for joining our webinar today. Let's get started. So a question while I go over some housekeeping items. Feel free to use the chat function or the Q&A function that we have over here. I'll be happy to engage with you, answer any type of questions you have. The question today is, in one word, describe the state of fundraising for your organization, whether it's for year-end fundraising, Giving Tuesday, or just how fundraising went this year in 2023. I'd love to hear from you. So drop that into the chat if you do have the chance. A few housekeeping items to get started. This session is being recorded, so you will get a copy of this in the next few days. So if you have to jump out early or if you want to share it with your colleagues, look out for that. The slides will also be sent out along with a summary email, probably around tomorrow afternoon. So again, slides will be provided and recording will be sent out to y'all. So let's get started. Our webinar today is winning high earner donors with automated giving. So today I'm speaking to you solo. So my name is Rob Wu. I'm the CEO and one of the founders of Cosvox. I've been in fundraising for about 13 plus years, helped small and medium-sized organizations raise about $500 million so far, and we look forward to helping organizations raise the second half of that billion very soon. I come from a company called Cosmox. So if you don't know us, we are a fundraising platform for nonprofits. You can use us for online donation pages, for giving days, for fundraising websites. You can use us to build a very comprehensive fundraising website that is branded to your organization and customized and reflective of your organization's mission and impact. We also offer hands-on support. So if you need one-on-one training, one-on-one help, feel free to contact us. We'll be happy to help you get set up. We're happy to help you with a consultation to see how you can increase your fundraising results through our software. And lastly, we provide top-rated fundraising education. So webinars like this, always free. Resources and guides, always free. And we have a lot of stuff regarding kind of modern philanthropy trends, as well as Giving Tuesday guides that you can use coming up in the next few weeks. We help you unlock fundraising for high earners. So everything on Cosvox is geared towards helping donors have an incredible donation experience when they touch your donation form or your fundraising websites. So what this is reflected in is helping you build branded donation pages that is no code, as well as fully customizable campaign sites that you can use for informational purposes, or you can tie it into fundraising campaigns like peer-to-peer fundraising or just a fundraising appeal, or something like Giving Tuesday. We plug this in and integrate it into fundraising with donation forms, event ticketing, as well as peer-to-peer fundraising, all within our platform. If you're looking for more information about Cosvox, feel free to register for an online demo over here. And you can go to schedule a demo, Cosvox, and let me just paste that into our chat over here. All right. All right, and let's go forward. So for today, what I wanted to do is kind of talk about a few things. The first one is just giving you a background of why this topic of high earner dollars or affluent donors is really interesting for me. From there, really talk about some of the psychographics of the segment of donors where to provide an outsized impact to your fundraising. And then we also want to talk about some of the automation strategies when it comes to donations on how you can create donation forms or donation types that are that will really resonate for this audience. And lastly, some of the special engagement strategies that you can take that's very different than targeting mass donors or individual donors. So let's talk about kind of this journey, kind of where I got to this place. So after running Cosvox for 12 plus years, last year, decided that, hey, we've been solving this problem of digital fundraising very well, where we can help folks create donation pages very easily, help folks create campaign sites very easily. And we have a strong roadmap in terms of how to improve and optimize the products. But one of the pieces that was always missing is really understanding what is the fundraising engine that we can help nonprofits build. So I went on this journey where I talked to about 200 plus folks who worked in fundraising, specifically related to major gifts and major donors. And I wanted to see, okay, how do you connect digital fundraising where you can create a pipeline towards major gifts or a pipeline towards even mid-level gifts. And what do we need to build over here at CosVox to really make that happen? And one of the things I really stumbled on over here is that major gifts and mid-level gifts are transformational for a lot of organizations, where a few or a handful of major donors can really change the course of an organization and really increase their impact. And when we look at the data, it's really interesting where when you look at high earners and affluent donors, they have a 17x or 17 times donation average gift compared to just the general population. So just incredible amount of capacity that this segment of donors can provide the organizations that they serve. And when you look at wealth as well, where annual giving, there's a direct linear increase where the more net worth that you have as a donor, then the more you give. So, which I find it really fascinating when, especially as you're talking to a lot of high net worth, very high net worth folks, or even just a collection of folks like that, they start to rival the gift sizes of grants and foundation giving. So what happened here is that when we did do a research study a few months ago called the CosVox Giving Study, and I'll paste the links over here where you can take a look. There's a lot of interesting insights regarding just general fundraising trends, but also something that was really interesting when we were cutting the data from the respondents was around how high earners were a little bit different than the mass population in terms of what they responded to, as well as what resonates with them when it comes to a fundraising perspective. So what I did over here is actually took some of the data that we have and some of the insights from the CosVox Giving Study, and also combined it with a Bank of America study, which they've done just for over a decade regarding affluent households. So this presentation today is reflective of both insights from both of the studies. And if you want to dive a little deeper, I just pasted the links into the chat where you can download those resources for free. So let's dive into first the psychographics of what high earners as well as affluent donors are thinking. So I fundamentally believe that in order to really resonate with a specific person, in order to make an ask or eventually make an ask, they really have to understand them as well as kind of put yourselves in their shoes. So let's talk about that real fast. So when it comes to the affluent donor mind, we see this as two different segments. So you have one segment, which are the high earners, and the second segment being the affluents. So high earners are typically very income focused. You know, they're folks who, for example, have an income of over $100,000. Now, some segments kind of see this as over $200,000. For example, for the Bank of America study, they did their segment based on 200K and above a year of annual income, while the study over here at CosVox, we looked at over 100K of income, mainly because our segment of customers that we serve are predominantly small and medium size. So what is a high earner for them is a little lower than what is a high earner for a broader study, such as the Bank of America study. The difference between a high earner and an affluent person, though, is that it's really based on their net worth. While high earners could be people who are kind of tech workers a little earlier on, when you look at their all-in compensation, they may make around 100K or more. While affluents are typically have had either some type of generational money, or they've been working for quite a while, which they had the time to accumulate a certain amount of wealth, whether it's property or stock, for example, restricted stock that they've gotten from their employers. You know, for example, a bunch of friends who've worked at Facebook and Google, they have a ton of stock. So they will fall into this category of affluent donors. So there's two different categories. And what I find really interesting is that for these two different categories too, there are indicators that you can take as a fundraiser to really understand who are potential targets. So the first one being just occupation and position. So I find this really interesting where if you're looking for high earners, or even when you're looking for folks who are affluent, for high earners, you can begin to target more kind of mid-level plus senior management level folks just based on their LinkedIn. You can also target folks who are working in specific industries. Specific industries have certain type of pay bands and expectations. For example, somebody working at a Big Four accounting firm, or someone who's working at, let's say one of the FANG companies, they typically have a higher starting base salary. But then on top of that, a lot of the compensation, up to 50% to 100% of it, is based off of restricted stock that vests within 3 to 5 years. So when you play this out, if you look at kind of the position that someone has been at, like on their LinkedIn, as well as the tenure on that, then you can begin to formulate, okay, their annual giving, or sorry, the annual salary is around 100K or maybe 200K or 500K, depending on those positions. So I kind of find it really fascinating. Another indicator of wealth is real estate, and that's why a lot of the wealth screening tools, such as iWave as well as Donor Search, they typically depend their metrics just purely based on real estate, because that's information that's publicly available, as well as it is a huge asset that a lot of affluent folks have. Another indicator is you can start to look at lifestyle choices. Do these people take fancy vacations 3 times a year? Where are they going over the summer? Or you can even look at what kind of car they drive, that kind of stuff. But typically speaking, if you're looking for high earners, you may have some more of the the luxury items that folks are kind of starting to purchase. While for affluent folks, or even beyond that, they typically like to hide their wealth, stealth wealth, like for a better term. So you can look for some of those indicators. Business ownership is another one. Typically someone who's been in business for quite a while, who runs their own small business or is a CEO of a company, to typically have some type of high earning potential as well as wealth. You can even look at asset collections. So when you're profiling and talking to a prospective donor or an existing donor, they're really interested in the finer things in life, or art collections, or collecting fancy toys like yachts, boats, that kind of thing. Then that's another indicator of wealth. Household choices is another indicator that I like to kind of put down. Do they have the capacity to hire household help, whether it's a nanny or a personal chef, that kind of stuff. That gives you an indicator that they may have additional capacity to give. And lastly, philanthropy habits. This is probably the best one. If someone has a habit of giving, that not only tells you that they have they have a budget for giving every year, but also gives you an understanding of what is their giving capacity per year as a donor. So those are some indicators of wealth. When we look at some of the other studies outside of CosVox, what's really interesting is that when the question is asked, why do affluent donors give? A lot of it is kind of common sense, and this is kind of what these are some of the reasons why other donors give, just mass population, where they believe in the mission of the organization, they believe that they can make a difference, and then they find it personally satisfying, essentially. So nothing really surprising here. Some of the barriers, though, that I find really interesting is that for affluent donors, some of the barriers, the biggest barrier is really figuring out what they care about and deciding why they should donate. So I find it really interesting where, as conversations, as fundraisers, typically we're just making an ask. We're hoping to connect a donor with a specific need that we have as an organization. I think this is a reminder of where we need to take a look at, what makes the donor tick, what really resonates with them, really get to understand a donor themselves, to figure out what drives them in order to match up a specific project or program that really aligns with some of their interests. So that's a fascinating reminder for us as fundraisers. I think the second thing is really fascinating too, in terms of a barrier, in terms of an obstacle, is really understanding how much a donor can give. Now, for folks who are high earners, or folks who are affluent, you presume that they budget every single thing that they have an understanding of their money, or they have help from outside advisors to really understand that. For the data over here, I think what's really interesting is that 1 out of every 3 affluent donor actually doesn't know how much they can give. So as fundraisers, one of the things that we can challenge ourselves to do is actually come alongside folks who are donors and really understand, okay, what is the plan for giving? How much can you actually give? And to help them really understand and collaborate with them where it fits their budget. So in terms of affluent donor preferences, I find this really interesting too. A lot of times we kind of overemphasize where, okay, we need to have text to give. We need to have like social media fundraising. I think all that's really important to attract a mass number or a mass amount of donors, typically smaller gifts. But when you look at high earners and affluent folks, what they really respond to is email. So if you don't put enough emphasis on your email game, having well-designed emails, well-crafted stories, high deliverability, then I think you're really missing out on a huge segment of donors that are transformative to your organization. So, it doesn't always make sense to put your eggs into something that's always shiny, like TikTok or Twitter, now X, kind of whatever we call it. Just, I would say for most organizations, especially for the organizations that we talk to every day over here at CosVox, just doing the handful of things that you know how to do well and improve on it will really go a long way of transforming your fundraising results. When we look at the studies over here at CosVox internally, via the CosVox Giving Study, we asked donors what kind of tactics would help them donate more, essentially. And this is kind of a ranking from top to bottom in terms of a segment of the tactics. And what's really surprising, the top three are really related to storytelling and communications, where the job of a fundraiser really is to be a great storyteller and a really great communicator. So as long as you update your donors on how the funds are used, as long as you update donors on the impact of their donations, and these are just fundraising one-on-one fundamental tactics, then it goes a long way of not only retaining the donor, but converting future donors to your organization. In terms of barriers for affluent donors, I kind of find this really interesting, where and I think I already talked about this slide. Sorry, it's this slide over here. So inside the CosVox study, the barriers over here that we found, the top one really includes concerns about the legitimacy of the organization. And then number two over here, financial constraints, to really understand like how much they can budget out. So our study and our data over here at CosVox corroborates with the Bank of America studies. So I find this really fascinating, where budget constraints, really helping donors really understand how much they can donate, will go a long way of increasing the donations for your organization. I also found what's really fascinating in terms of psychographics of high earners and affluent donors is that donors who are really tied and as well as volunteer for the organization, they tend to give 3 times more than donors who are not. So I think what this really tells us is that if a donor is connected and engaged with your organization, whether it's volunteering time or seeing the work firsthand, the folks who are highly engaged tend to donate a lot more than the donors who don't. So what this really tells us from a stewardship plan perspective, when you're engaging with high earner donors and affluent donors, is if donation is the first step of the relationship, while from there, it's all about stewardship of not only communicating and reporting back to them in terms of the impact of their donation, but helping them see firsthand the impact of their work, whether it's through volunteering or program visits and other opportunities like that. All right, so now that we know a little bit about the psychographics of high earners and affluent donors, let's talk about some of the automation and why automation is really important. So through the CosVox Giving Study, we found that the top donor payment preferences, which is not surprising, is debit and credit card from this segment of high earner donors. What is surprising, though, is mobile wallets. In mobile wallets, such as PayPal, Venmo, Apple Pay, Google Pay, those type of tools just help donors give a lot faster. And for the segment of folks that we're talking about today, they find it really valuable. So when we look at the data, 81% of high earners want a streamlined donation experience. And what this really means is that the donation form is easy to use, that making a donation is pleasant and delightful, as well as modern and secure. And one of the shifts and the reason why high earner donors really expect this is through e-commerce. So 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we didn't have a lot of websites where people can shop. A lot of people were still shopping kind of in store. And then with the pandemic as well, being the kind of peak digital adoption, you see a lot of kind of big box companies like Home Depot, Target, kind of really transform how they do online shopping, where there are apps that are dedicated towards just buying stuff at Target. You have curbside delivery. So you have kind of this e-commerce push from the for-profit industry where it just helps a lot of folks easily make a transaction. Now, when it comes to how we do fundraising today, it is making a transaction, but I don't believe that nonprofits have invested as much time as well as effort or have availability to the tools that allow them to provide a donor experience that mirrors and rivals what Amazon can give you, or what Walmart can give you, or what Target and Home Depot can give you. So, so on one end, you see kind of just donors expecting a certain type of transaction experience. But then on the other hand, we see us and nonprofits, we're not there yet, but we will be in a few years. One of the things that we're doing over here at CosVox to help solve for this is turning the donation experience more into a shopping experience. So we just released one thing called our donation cart. So instead of donors making just a transaction on your website through your donation form, they can actually shop around for different projects and programs they want to support. So you get more information in terms of what the donor is interested in. Or if you're running peer-to-peer fundraising, what happens is the donor can shop around on different peer-to-peer fundraising pages, or different team pages, or different organization pages, and then they can put it in their basket and they can check out in one transaction. So that's something that really rivals the process as well as the experience when shopping online, such as on Target, or I shop at Lululemon since I work out a lot. So it rivals that experience, which we're trying to apply to the charitable donation space. So that's something that's really interesting from our side. One of the things that we see too that's really interesting is that the donors who prioritize a cohesive donation experience, so which are the vast majority of high earner and affluent donors, they are 45% more likely to donate for over 5 years. So when you provide a seamless donation experience through automation, through branding, then these donors are your best donors to retain, that would naturally retain and expect to be retained as part of your organization. So not only are you able to convert a donor, but also you're able to retain a donor through a seamless donation experience. The benefit for you as a nonprofit person, as a back office like finance person, or as a fundraiser, is that automation really reduces the back office tasks and helps free up time, so you can go out there and actually spend time with your donors. All right. One of the ways that I believe that is beneficial for this segment of donors, and when we match together, okay, these donors want to have automation, they want to have convenience, they want to have something modern, they want to have something that mirrors how they buy online today, is something called pledge donations as well as recurring donations. Recurring donations is probably something that we've all heard about, where what you can take one-time donations on your donation page, that's great, but you can also do recurring donations for either monthly, quarterly, or annual. So there's a difference between pledge donations and recurring donations. Recurring donations are what you expect, what you've been talking about, where a donor gives $50 a month and they continue on forever. Well, pledge donations are a little bit different, where a donor pledges to give you a higher gift amount, let's say $10,000, and then their payments are broken up through time, whether it's monthly or annually. So what happens here is a different dynamic, where the donor is actually thinking about, okay, I can afford $10,000 to give this year, and then let me break that up into installments so I can pay it through time, so it matches the budget and cash flow that I have as a high earner. So this type of donation is really interesting, and we found that donors tend to give more as well as give more frequently when they're presented the automated pledge option. The difference between the two as well is that pledge donations typically have a defined start and end date, while recurring donations typically don't have an end date. They kind of just go on forever, kind of like your Netflix subscription or your Amazon Prime subscription, while something like a pledge donation is more like purchasing a vehicle or purchasing something where you need to pay on installment. I think the best example is like purchasing a car, where you're saying, okay, I'm going to pay, let's say $30,000, or let's say for someone's affluent, they're going to pay $80,000 for a vehicle, and then they pay it through time, such as like paying a loan or a mortgage. Typically, donation sizes, we see higher gift amounts from pledge donations, as well as you have an understanding of the expected gift size because the donor pledges to give a certain amount. while for recurring donations, you see this to be smaller amounts, around like $25 to $75 a month, as part of someone's disposable income. The use cases are unique. So for pledge donations, we typically see this in capital campaigns or for major gifts, while for recurring donations, it is kind of like an afterthought almost, or a sustainer to cover operational expenses. So these are two examples of automations that would resonate with all donors, but for pledge donations, it specifically resonates with donors who are high earners as well as affluent donors. This is just kind of a screenshot of something of our pledge form at CauseVox. Basically, will allow donors to go through the process really easily. They can use our donation form, select a $10,000 pledge, and then it's broken up into monthly installments or yearly installments, and it's billed automatically to the donor, whether it's credit card, mobile payments, or ACH. All right. Now, automation is super critical when it comes to converting high net worth donors. The other piece of it too is what happens and what do you need to shift in terms of a stewardship when it comes to high earners as well as affluent donors. So a few things that come to mind would be having a stewardship and work plan. Typically when it comes to just donors in general, you just don't have enough capacity to have a conversation or have a meeting with every single donor. So what happens then is you want to segment out who are the donors, who are the prospective donors in one portfolio that want to work throughout the year because they have high potential. So having a specific work plan approach and a stewardship approach to this segment of donors will be really valuable. And typically we see that for this audience, each dedicated kind of fundraising professional can handle around 50 to 150 prospective donors in their portfolio. The second piece would be around personalized approach. While you can have more of an account management approach, more of a one-on-one approach, instead of a mass approach, which is just sending out newsletters and posting on social media. The other engagement opportunity would be around exposures for seeing the program in person. So either volunteering or serving on fundraising committees or doing peer-to-peer fundraising. Then lastly, it's really around the storytelling aspect of providing them regular updates while maintaining trust and transparency. This is something that we've found really valuable over here at CauseVox, where we are building in kind of just personalization tools into our platform that allows our users to send out one-on-one personalized emails to the donors that are recorded in CauseVox. So this is something that you can also do probably if you connect through a different tool, through your CRM or just through your personal kind of organization email. Well, it allows you just to kind of send personalized outreach. Another thing that you can build into, one of the things we over here that we have at CauseVox is just what we call a Kanban board, where it allows you to track the donors in your pipeline and kind of move them through time. If you don't have something like this, or if you're not using CauseVox, then you can use something like Asana, or to use something like Trello as a way to kind of move your prospective donors through different phases as you steward them. And then very lastly over here, just having a easy task management tool. So you can easily see, okay, these are the associated work plans and tasks that I have for my donors. And then this is the outreach that I need to give them through time. We also see that donors are, for high earner donors, they're increasingly willing to participate in fundraising activities. So a lot of times when it comes to donors, we kind of see the only action we want them to take is to make a donation, while donors are eager to actually participate. So what this really means is that as a way to solve two problems with one approach, one of the things you can do is you can ask your donors to participate in fundraising committees, or you can ask your donors to participate in other ways. For example, one way is through peer-to-peer fundraising, where donors can go in, participate in a campaign, create a personal fundraising page, and really tell their audience why they're fundraising for their organization. The benefit of this is that not only do you yield more donations because you can extend your reach as an organization, but secondly, you're able to attract and acquire new donor contacts and new prospects to your organization. And then from there, you can continue the process of stewardship in order to convert first-time donors into repeat donors or pledge donors into mid-level and major gifts. What we found over here, just to kind of wrap this up over here, in terms of engagement, is that storytelling is fundamentally important, and that kind of reaching out to the segment of donors that have donated and providing them updates and being very transparent in terms of how their funds have been utilized is critically important. All right. Now, just to wrap up over here, as a summary, the high earners and affluent donors, they have an outsized impact on fundraising. They're people too, so they think very similarly to just mass donors, but then they have certain things that they look for, such as they want to be kept up to date, as well as they want automation when it comes to fundraising. Now, pledge donations being a great solution to help automate some of this, and that these donors should be engaged, can be engaged, and should be engaged with a little bit more care and intention than mass donors. So providing them more of a specialized touch, specialized approach, and having a portfolio approach to a segment of high earners as well as affluent donors will yield outsized impact to your organization. All right. So let me see. Let's kind of wrap it up for Q&A over here. I don't have a Q&A slide, so I'm going to kind of just settle over here. If you do have any questions, feel free to drop it into the Q&A. Then I'll be happy to get those answered today, or you can use the chat as well. Let's give it a few minutes. And I do know that we're pretty close to time, kind of went over a little bit, so I appreciate for folks who have stayed on. All right, well, we do have a question here regarding the slides and recording. Yes, this presentation is being recorded and the slides will be sent out tomorrow. Well, the recording and the slides will be sent out tomorrow. In terms of the studies over here, I'm going to paste it into the chat again. You can feel free to kind of link those or click on those links that I put into the chat, and then you can download them at any time if you want to dive a little bit deeper. Another question we have is regarding pledge donations and where you can use that. So if you're interested in learning more about CauseVox and our pledge donation capabilities, you can always go to our website, which is causevox.com, or you can contact our support team, support@causevox.com, and then we'll be happy to schedule a time with you to show you a demo of our pledge donations. Right. Another question is, could I use CauseVox for nonprofit organizations based in Germany? And yes, you can. So you'll just be limited by kind of one thing, which is around payments. So as long as you can get a Stripe account or a PayPal account, then you should be able to connect our CauseVox tools with your payment processor, which is through PayPal or Stripe. And then you'll be able to use our platform to build fundraising websites, as well as donation forms and event ticketing forms. Another thing I want to share too is that Giving Tuesday is among us. So we do have a Giving Tuesday guide that you can leverage. And I'll paste it in over here. It's a 3-part series, Giving Tuesday guide, year-end fundraising guide, as well as communication toolkit. So you haven't finalized your plans for Giving Tuesday yet, feel free to download our free guide over here, which will walk you through some of the process, best practices, and tips on how to maximize your Giving Tuesday campaign. All right. It looks like we're at time over here. Thank you so much for your time today in talking about winning high earner donors. And if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out, support@causevox.com. We'll be happy to help. Thank you so much for your time today, and I look forward to seeing you all fundraise and be successful on year-end fundraising. Thank you so much.